Good morning there, Gia. You know, Governor Walz has hinted yesterday that he may make that announcement today to resume elective surgeries. But a lot of people are asking, well, why now, considering we have that new high level of coronavirus hospitalization? So let's go over some more of those numbers. There are now 166 patients in intensive care and 9 more deaths. Minnesota's death toll is now at 428, and about 1,000 new cases were test confirmed over the week, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to just over 7,200. Now, let's point out that in more than half of these cases, patients have now recovered. Now, hospitals stopped doing elective surgeries more than a month ago, but Governor Walz said yesterday that the state has enough ICU beds and ventilators. However, the leader of the largest healthcare workers union in the state disagrees with the governor's call, saying that the state should not resume surgeries right now because of the lack of personal protective equipment for workers. So listen to this statement from Jamie Gully, the president of SEIU Healthcare Minnesota, who writes, "There are nursing home workers in Minnesota in facilities with confirmed COVID-19 cases who are using rain ponchos and paper masks because we simply don't have enough PPE for what we are facing." Now, today at the Capitol, lawmakers are going to unveil a new budget outlook, a new budget forecast, taking into account all the expenditures thus far on COVID-19, and the governor will be commenting about that this afternoon. Gia.
Yeah, we'll be for sure staying on top of this story. Ellery, thank you.